Watch this. How's that, folks? That me with your approval? It certainly meets with mine. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate you inviting me. My name is Dick Wright, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Dick.
I'm a real alcoholic. The reason I tell you that is not to differentiate myself from anybody else or to make me different. I can just tell you I'm a real alcoholic because you can find me anywhere in that book, if there's one around here. You can find me in there, described to a T. You can find out in there what I developed in alcoholism. You can find out what happened to me. You can find out what it's like now. Get you some of the statistics out of the way. See, I was 84 years old last Tuesday.
All right.
Not bad, is it? No, I'd known I was going to live so long, I would have taken better care of myself. I've been sober for 48 years, 10 months, and 7 days. I was born and raised on a farm in upstate New York. Tells you all, I was born in 1930, so that tells you all you need to know about my early childhood days. I was raised in Depression years. I was out in the country. I was raised by a good, conservative, hard-working family. There was, to my knowledge, no alcoholism or mental disorders in my family, no personality disorder, so I can't blame it on inheritance. Not inheriting that, didn't do that. I can tell you that all of my upbringing in that little village community and in that atmosphere at that date and time, all of my upbringing was good. And I heard about good things from good people who showed love and compassion and understanding, a good work ethic, and couldn't ask for anything more than that. And that's what I learned from in formative years that I was raised with. So I'd like to be able to tell you that I'm a victim. But I can't tell you I'm a victim because I'm not. However, I was reading in that book. There is a book. I hope you're familiar with it, if you're alcoholic. If you're not alcoholic, I hope you're familiar with it too. Talking before the meeting with Diane, I guess, about reading the book, I especially alert you to the black part in it. I hope you become real familiar with the black part of the book. I was reading in that black part of the book one day, and I found out what I am a victim of. Can you hear me now?
I hear
I found out in that book in the black part what I'm a victim of. Right after the ABCs in chapter 5, it starts to talk about self-will. And it says in there that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success because in that condition, I'm almost always in conflict. And so as I read on about self-will and selfishness and self-centeredness of the alcoholic personality which I identified with, I could see, lo and behold, that I was a victim. I was a victim of selfishness, self-centeredness, and self-will. And it drove me into alcoholism. So I'm going to tell you very little bit about what it was like. I got a watch. So whoever said I was going to talk for 3 hours is wrong. I'm not going to talk for 3 hours. There's a couple of reasons. I'm 84 years old, and one of them, I got a I got a ride back to Matthews Indian Trail area, and that's a good little hike. And I am a member of the Indian Trail group of alcoholics, and I'm a member in good standing of that group. I also go to a lot of other groups in that area. So my life was formed and raised in that kind of an atmosphere as a youngster. Good things, good people. Farmhouse overlooking a small village, barns, silos, one steeple, one-room schoolhouse down at the bottom of the hill, all 6th grades. Those kind of things. Closeness, unity, love, compassion, understanding. Nobody did anyone any harm that I know of. Now, most people would sit here and say that you ought to come out of that kind of upbringing with a zest and a drive to stay sober, to lead a good life, to be functional, to be a good steward of what's been given to you. You ought to go out there and be a good steward of that. And I should have been. But as I look back, and I lurch back to that selfishness and self-centeredness, there came a point, folks, in my life where the tight discipline and tight control and tight influence of that community and a very strict father and the family began to loosen its grip on me, or I began to let them have that grip on me, and I began instead to develop a different set of standards and a different code of conduct and a different set of relationships. And I didn't know till I read the book that when I began to develop the selfishness and self-centeredness and self-will, and I began to thumb my nose literally at these other standards and this other control that I'd had over me and on me for that period of time. Now, the story goes that up until the time that I began to develop that self-will, when I was under the influence of that community and those standards and that code of conduct, my life went along just fine. Just fine. And as I began to develop self-will and my own standards and my own code of conduct, my life began to be in trouble because I began to be in conflict. And I began to have trouble with everybody, especially people in authority in my life. I had trouble in the school system, I had trouble with teachers, I had trouble with bus drivers, I had trouble with law enforcement, I had trouble with my dad. I just had trouble getting along. I didn't have that trouble up until that point. But once I began to develop that self-will and those different standards and the code of conduct, self-will, I did begin to have those difficulties. Now, as a part of that book, over in The Doctor's Opinion, where a doctor by the name of Silkworth describes me. And he talks about what happens to my personality when I begin to have that conflict and when I begin to have those difficulties, when I begin to have those challenges. And he describes my personality in 3 words: restless, irritable, discontented. I don't know of 3 words that better describe Dick Wright in those years, and Dick Wright today if I let it. Restless, irritable, and discontented. So I go on into life restless, irritable, and discontented because of self-will, because of trying to make the rules and trying to make the standards, misbehaving, misconduct, conflict with people. Along about the time I was, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, something like that. I was with a bunch of guys, older than me probably, and during the summer months, we would walk up after we finished working all day and walk up to the main highway, which is about 1.5 miles away. And we go to a drive-in theater up there called the Finger Lakes Drive-In. Loudspeakers on the screen. Didn't need those individual speakers inside the window. Don't even have drive-ins anymore, I don't think. But anyway, loudspeakers, and we'd sit out on a piece of vacant property and some weeds, trampled down weeds, up against an old fallen down apple tree, and we watched a movie, country and western, generally. Gene Autry, Roy Rogers. Good times. One night on the way up there, these guys they stopped by a place called the Rainbow Inn. Nice place. It wasn't what you would refer to as a lounge. Wouldn't call it a cocktail place. It was Rainbow Inn, what it was. And they stopped there and they got something to drink. They took it up there to the drive-in with them. And I could tell after they were drinking this stuff that they were having a better time than I was. That they didn't seem to be restless, irritable, and discontented. And they were funnier, and they were more talkative, and just had a better time. So I thought, I'd better try some of that stuff. So I began to save some money. And I did. I stashed it away. 86 cents. And walked up there one night on the way up there, old pair of overalls on, t-shirt out over. And I stopped in the Rainbow Inn and I bought me a quart of Roma port wine. Pulled my t-shirt out, put that down inside my belt, put the t-shirt out over it, walked on up to the drive-in, sat down in those trampled down weeds, put up against the old fallen down apple tree, cracked the top on that thing, sat back, started to drink it, drank the whole thing. Now, I don't have to tell you folks that I had a bad night. I did some things I hadn't done for a long time, never. Some of them I have never done. I rolled around in those weeds and dirt and dust. I puked. I wet my pants. I hadn't done that in quite a while. I began to have some trouble that night. And these guys carried me on back home. They took me upstairs in that little farmhouse and they put me in a bed that rolled right in the middle because we jumped on it so much. And when they put you in there, you were stuck. You were stuck in the middle of that thing. You couldn't get out. And I was stuck there all night. And those things kept going on the rest of the night. Bad scene. Next morning, my father's mad, my mother's sad, my sister's bewildered. I'm cleaning up, trying to fix up damage. And I finally got that stuff cleared up, and I got it fixed up, and I got it cleaned up, and I recovered from my dad's anger and my mother's sadness and my sister's bewilderment, and I worked through that. Now, folks, if you're an alcoholic of my description, you gotta be good at that after a while. You gotta be good at fixing up skills because you'll need to use them. If you haven't used all your fixing up skills yet, begin to hone them because you're going to need them. And after that thing was over, I got looking back and so that's pretty bad. But then I got thinking some more about it. And I got thinking about after I started to drink that stuff, there was a little period of time in there. I don't know how long, I don't know how quick it happened or how long it was, but there was a little period of time when I felt pretty good. You know, the sweat and dirt and hard work and cow manure and stuff and gathering eggs and didn't bother me so much. I was no longer restless, no longer irritable, no longer discontented. Little period of time. Little period. And Silkworth talks about that. Refers to it as a sense of ease and comfort. I don't know a phrase that better describes what I felt like, a sense of ease and comfort. And so with this information, developing strong self-will, conflict with people, code of conduct, standards which were in conflict and put me in conflict, restless, irritable, discontented, some knowledge about what would make me feel better. I went on into life with that information very quickly. It ain't gonna take me 3 hours. In the next several years, I got a little piece of a college education. I enlisted in the United States Air Force 2 days before I got my draft notice during the Korean War. I got in a pilot training program, was commissioned, got my wings, and flew airplanes in the Strategic Air Command. Met a lady in Tampa, Florida, told somebody about it tonight. Met her at the Capri Lounge on Henderson Boulevard in Tampa, Florida, first day of the World Series, 1953. Drunk. Got in a fight that night. She married me anyway. Did some. Let me tell you what alcohol did for me in this period of time. It always gave me a sense of ease and comfort. It always relieved that sense of discomfort that I had, restlessness, irritable, and discontent that I had. It always did it. And I sought it with regularity as much as I could. As much as my vocation would permit me, and maybe more often than it would really permit me. And I did some things that were fairly good. You know, I heard when I first came into AA that we're wired for additional voltage. Loved it. I loved it. I love it today, folks. Wired for additional voltage. How better can you describe you, Adam? I forgot to mention this to you. Wired for additional voltage. Don't forget, Jennifer is wired for additional voltage. Wired for additional voltage. I began to be able to do some things and excel. I married this lady I'd met. I married her up in the northeastern part of the state of Maine at a military hospital or a military chapel. We had children in that order, old-fashioned way. We're talking about this before while we're eating. The old-fashioned way, okay? I had a job. Perfect. I had income. We courted, C-O-U-R-T-E-D, courted. Okay. We got married. We had children. In that order, yeah. Oh, the old-fashioned way we did it. We're old-fashioned. Neil, we did it that old-fashioned way, didn't we? Did it that old-fashioned way. I'm sorry. If that sounds boring to you, probably, maybe it was, I don't know. And anyway. Remember about what I said about being wired for additional voltage. On through life, things began to happen. Some good things. I had some good reports, some good records, some good achievements, some bad things where I would do some things that I shouldn't do, that I would have to hone my fixing up skills some more. But things went pretty well. I can show you some documentation in my record. The military is very kind. For those of you that got to think back and try to remember what those years were like, and contemplate it and think about it, see if you can get it right. See, I don't have to worry about that. Oh, I got it in writing. Military is very kind. They give you, they write it all down, and they give you a copy. So I got it all in writing, and there is some good information in there, some good things. And then there's some bad things. April 9th, 1961, I was hospitalized for the first time for acute gastritis. Now, if you drink as much whiskey, brown whiskey, as I drank, as regularly as I drank it, and to the volume that I drank it, you will have acute gastritis. You will have it. It's going to show up in your medical record someday. And for the next 39 weeks, I spent 19 of those weeks locked up somewhere, secluded, away from the military, away from society, away from my family, while they tried to find out what to do with me. The book in the black part says we are a baffling lot. And I represent a baffling person to the United States Air Force for that period of time. They did not know what to do with me. Until November, I guess, of 1961, when they decided that they had found a remedy. It was called a Board of General Officers, which would convene and look over this material which I had accumulated, and they would determine whether or not I should remain on active duty status. Now, I don't know how long they pondered that information. I suspect not very long. And they decided that I should not remain in the military. So they threw me out. Almost 11 years. They gave me a general discharge, and the reason that this board of general, and a pretty powerful board if you read their titles, I mean, I'm impressed. General LeMay signed my discharge order. That's pretty impressive, folks. Most people got from General Curtis E. LeMay signed mine. Some of you know who that is. The board determined that I ought to be relieved of active duty status because of, alcoholism, acute, chronic, and severe. So for those of you that are just regular run-of-the-mill general alcoholics, I'm worse. I'm worse. In writing. I ain't got to sit back and wonder and ponder that. I ain't got to sit back and think, I wonder how bad it was. It's right there. Right there. Still got it. Still can read it. Well, I tried to put my life back together. I did what all good 31-year-old married men with children ought to do. No job. Okay. Moved in with my mother. That's a true story, folks. I don't want to make any of this up now. I got some documents. I can document this stuff. You can visit me. I can show you. I moved in with Ma. and tried to put my life back together. In the first paragraph of chapter 3, more about alcoholism, the black part, it talks about my condition back then, January 1962. Unwilling to admit that I was different, unwilling to admit that I'm alcoholic. Because of that countless vain attempt to prove that I could drink like other people. Countless vain attempts. Countless, can't remember the number. Vain, didn't work. Attempts, shots, give it a shot, try. Countless vain attempts to prove that I could drink like other people, and there were. Got in the businesses I retired from, I started to do fairly well in that, wired for additional voltage. Got transferred to Greensboro in 1964. On the 11th of October 1964, Monday night, I stopped by a place called the Mug. Nice place. You don't come to in the Mug and say, I must be at the Hilton. But I guess I'm going to have a beer. That's pretty innocent. Monday evening. Sunday afternoon, I was sitting in the corner of the living room in my underwear, social drinking. I have a bottle of something brown, chasing pell-mell cigarettes, not harming us all. Hadn't been back to work, hadn't shaved, hadn't bathed much, hadn't eaten anything for 6 days. There I was again, been that way many times before. I tried it again, had failed, and dismally failed. There I was again. And through a sequence of events of that day that I can't explain very well, some of you understand what happened, some of you may not. But they involve some very important people in my life. A minister, church related, sorry folks, 2 men from AA who came and did a classic 12-step call in a hopeless, despairing situation. And that worked. And in a setting in the living room of that house where I was sitting that morning in my underwear, a message was carried into our lives, my life, of hope. 2 men who said they felt the same things I felt, thought the same thoughts I thought, drank the same way I drank, did the same things I did. One of them hadn't for 9 years and the other one for 5. And for the first time ever, not the first one, a lot of them out there in the military and family, and you know what these things, what there are. I know what happens when they have that family meeting talking about Ma's will. I know what that's about. These 2 men told me about these important things that they had experienced and told me what they had done. One of them had that drink 9 years and the other one 5, and I bought into it, hook, line, and sinker, really. I did. Now, it wasn't very well. If you drank like I drank and you've been doing it for 6 days, and you haven't eaten anything, or you wake up and get drunk and pass out, and wake up and get drunk and pass out, if you do that 4, 5, 6 times a day, you'll get to be a little ragged. And I was a little ragged. But they decided to ask me if I'd go to a meeting that night, and I said I would, and they came by and picked me up. And all people always ask me, were you out of your underwear? And Yes, I had clothes on by this time. By the time they got there, I had clothes on. And they took me to Burlington, North Carolina. I lived in Greensboro at the time. They took me to Burlington for a Sunday night meeting. I met with people like you. Heard a speaker out of Danville, Virginia. Remember his name, don't remember much about what he said. But I picked up a beginner's chip. And I remember what Wade Johnson said to me on the way back to Greensboro. He said, "You never have to drink again if you don't want to." And I knew instinctively what that meant. I knew that what they had shared with me that afternoon and what I had learned that night about a place that you people came and got together so that you could pull that stuff off was important combination information. And I knew what he said. I began to learn. That was the second thing I learned. The first thing I learned was when you folks said the Serenity Prayer. I'd never heard that before. God help give me the strength to accept the things I can't change. And I said, that's going to be important information. I've been trying to change things I had no business trying to change for a long time. That's going to be important. I began to learn early. And then I learned what Wade said about not drinking again if I didn't want to. Now I had a choice. I got that. I was sick. I couldn't get those kind of things. I got that. Then I said to him, how many meetings should I go to? If you're new, don't ask that question. Well, forget it. Scratch that. Don't ask it. He looked at me and he said, 7 meetings a week will be enough for you. That was before the 90 and 90 and whatever we got now. 7 meetings a week will be enough for you. I have people that tell me soccer practice gets in the way of it. Softball practice, baseball practice. They didn't ask me that. Wade didn't say, you got any room in your schedule? He told me 7 meetings a week. And the next day, these 2 guys came by the office and picked me up and stayed with me all day long, most of the day. And they took me to a meeting that night. And the next night they took me, and the next night they took me. And this ritual went on day after day after day, night after night after night. I began to put this thing together one day at a time. I began to get better physically. I quit shaking, I quit jerking, I quit sweating, I quit puking, and began to take a little some sustenance in, you know, heavy stuff. Raw egg, little buttermilk, stuff like that. You know. Began to get better. And I've been going ever since. Been doing it ever since. Been getting a little better ever since. I'm one of those people who never picked up more than one chip. I'm glad to say that. I don't expect any additional rewards. I'm totally comfortable with the chip I carry in my pocket. And I was talking with Neil before. I tell you, if he or I drink again, folks, let me tell you something, we don't make it back. We don't make it back. Oh, I might make it back. I might go to the noon meeting in Boise, Idaho. But I don't come to the Indian Trail group and pick up a white chip, I'll tell you that. So what's been happening since? A lot of things. I want to commend the people at this group for having an anniversary. I know you do this and you eat and you have a good time, we tell lies and we do those things. Great time, but you know how important I think this is? The group stand together, the group doing anything, how important this group is. It says in that first tradition, our common welfare, the welfare of all of us here, including an old visitor like me. Common welfare should come first. that my sobriety and your sobriety depends on the unity of this group staying together and be able to have these things. So I got a place to go. So you got a place to go. So we're not out there wandering around. So that the one of two powers that's described in chapter 2, the power of the fellowship, has a place to work. If you ain't got a place to meet, there's no place for the power of the fellowship to work. If the power of the fellowship doesn't work, there's no way for the other power of the vital spiritual experience to come along. So this is so important. I mean, we take it kind of not casually. You have bring people a little potato salad and cook some hamburgers and stuff, bring some pop. But it's important. This is a place that I can come to stay sober, to pull this thing off. To pull off what Julie read and how it worked. To execute on wanting what you people have. To execute being willing to any lengths, go to any lengths to get it. It's important, and this has been important for me ever since you people got a hold of me and I began to do this. And handle it up. My sponsor, I got a sponsor. Some of you know him probably, Bill C. He's from Greensboro. He and I talk to each other and get together regularly. I got a sponsor and I use it. And I sponsor a lot of guys. Too many probably. I got a call from one the day before yesterday because I had a belly button birthday. He called me from Orlando. Another one from Minneapolis. Kind of relationship we developed in AA. I went to those 7 meetings a week for a long time. Okay. And the last week, I've been to 7. I've been to 7 meetings in the last week. And I've heard things that I needed to hear. And I heard about people sharing about being in a hotel in California and out of his comfort zone, and the cocktail hour going on downstairs, and he's up in his room because he doesn't think he can handle the cocktail hour. There's nothing to eat in his room. There's a couple of bottles of champagne over in his bucket. And how he got through that. I heard about that last night. I was there and heard that. And I was able to see what Bill says in the book about sanity returning, not fighting it, avoiding it like a hot flame, placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. I heard it described last night. That's why I went last night. I didn't go there because I got all the people hugging, just me to shake my hand because I'm an old fogey that still hangs around because I got nothing else to do. I don't go there for that reason. I come there for the same reason I come here tonight. To see you people. To stay sober one more day. To tell some people about a program that works. A program that works. And that's why I come. That's why I go to 7 meetings. You know, I've been around a while. And I'm visible, believe it or not. I know you'll be surprised to know that I'm visible. And I got a lot of friends. And I do a lot of things. But I go for the same reason you do, I hope. And that is because I have to give it away to keep it. I have to come here to hear things from you people that alert me to some things that I have forgotten. Or to put something in here that I hadn't learned about before. That's happened to me many times. That's why I come. I know I sponsor a lot of guys, and I give you accounts sometimes. You're interested. It's too many. And some of you say, I can't do it, but I do sponsor a lot of guys. But I don't sponsor them because the number is impressive. I sponsor these guys because they want me to sponsor them. They ask me to sponsor them. They come to me with things that they want to work through. I try to help them work through these things, and it ensures my own sobriety, so that I can be here in Aberdeen on a Saturday night when my home groups meet. Just pass it on some more. That's what my life's about. Been married a long time, been sober a long time, been an active member of my church a long time, been active in the community a long time, retired from a good profession. Got a wife of 59 years, got 2 daughters, 1 ex-son-in-law. One remaining son-in-law, 6 grandchildren. One who is special, like her grandpa. She's autistic. She's a 24-year-old autistic girl. And she and her grandpa are close. Why are we close? Because both of us got some problems. I think there's that curiosity, that sense of belonging that we have to each other because of that. Do I love her any more than I love my other grandchildren? All my great-grandchildren? Maybe a little bit. All of these things are possible. Page 164, down at the bottom. Great events will come to pass for you and countless others, under one condition only. If my relationship with him, capital H, is right. God bless you, folks.